Test. Oh. Where is that? Okay, well, this is my first attempt at a live stream guitar lesson. Hopefully, they get better over time. I'm going to be live streaming all kinds of things. At least this is my plan. So it's guitar lessons, piano lessons, vocal lessons, Pro Tool, production, singer, songwriter, basically anything that you want to learn and that I feel like teaching. So I'm saving all the content I do. I'm going to be uploading it to YouTube, probably without editing. So hopefully I can get a pretty good balance in time with volumes and stuff. Right now I don't know. It's hard for me to monitor it and nobody's here to help. Anyways, I'm not going to bother yapping too much. Don't think anybody's really going to log on for this first lesson, so you got to consider this one a little bit more like a YouTube video than anything else. Don't want to waste much time blabbing, so what we're going to talk about today is scales. I have a little diagram on the right there where you can see T's and S's. T's stand for tone. A tone is tone, and the S stands for semitone. And those imply the distance between two notes. So the distance between one note, say this note, and the note right beside it, either up or down, is called a semitone, which is just one fret on the guitar. The distance between this note and then skip a fret and play another note is called a tone. So here's the tone, and here's a semitone. So the idea of this chart is really to help you figure out all the major scales, all the minor scales, and all the modes all over the neck without a ton of memorizing. If you can remember the idea behind it, you can pretty much know it all pretty simply. So it's more of understanding this pattern. It's the idea is 3 notes per string and getting used to the pattern. So we're just going to start simple. We're going to maybe start on this note, which is a G. And you're going to see, we're just going to start right from the top. Now, we're just going to move up a tone, and then another tone. Those are the first 3 notes of the major scale. Then we go down a string, and we do what shows on the chart there, another tone. Same fret. So right now we're basing everything on the 3rd fret because we're playing in G. The first note we play is the root note. So this happens to be a G. Later we'll talk about the notes on the fretboard. But here's our G. We're going to go up a tone, down a string, tone. Try to pick up and down if you can. So meaning down, up, up. Okay? Now as we climb up the scale in pitch, we need to climb up the neck. Right now we have a span of 5 frets, 2 tones is our widest possible shape in a major scale. And that spans 5 frets. But you'll notice the next line has a semitone tone, which would only span 4 frets. So this width needs to shrink from 5 frets to 4 frets. So it could shrink either this way or this way. As we go up, we always shrink up. So we're going to go from our tone, another tone, to semitone, tone. Moving up, now we're going to hit the 4th fret for this note, and then we have semitone as the distance. So listen. Right? Then this is our Do Re Mi scale. Let's practice this for a minute. this is movable. This shape's very movable. So if I'm playing on a G, maybe I'll move it up to an A. And you might think, what are all the note names? Hopefully, you know that this low E string is the note E. Probably why it's called a low E string. In time, you'll learn a little bit more about theory. Maybe you already know 1 fret up from an E is an F. 1 fret up from an F is an F sharp. And 1 fret up from an F sharp is a G. For now, let's just memorize a few things. Let's memorize these dots on your guitar. 3rd fret should have a dot, 5th fret should have a dot. And open. Open's E, 3rd fret is G, 5th fret is A. You can just memorize that for now. And then 7th fret is B, and 1 fret up from B is C. So if you wanted to play a C scale, you could go play it here. You know, if you're learning guitar from a teacher or something like that, a beginner, you might have learned a C scale like this. Nothing's wrong with it. The same noting, same pattern, same sound, I should say, but a different fingering position completely. So anyways, let's go back to the G here. 3rd fret on the E string. We're going to play our tone shape, and then we're going to keep going to tone. Now let's the exact same thing down another string. So we got tone, 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 semitone, tone, semitone, tone. Okay? Now here's the thing about the guitar. It's pretty symmetrical for the most part. If I play this note here, which is an A, it's the same on this fret as it is on this open string open. Okay, the 5th fret is equal to the next string down open. And so this note here is a D, playing that down to the next open here is the same note. Same thing on the third string down to the 4th string up. On the D string, the 5th fret's a G, which is equal to this, which is a G. The problem though is when you get to the distance between, the gap between the 3rd string and the 2nd string, and we're going to number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the thinnest we call 1, and the thickest we call 6. So when you jump over this gap between the G string and the B string, the guitar is no longer symmetrical. Now the 4th fret on the G string equals a B, which is this string open. And because of this, anything we're doing in one position, maybe I might play a riff like this, I can play the same shape anywhere. But as soon as we bridge this gap, we have to slide everything up an extra fret. So instead of here, we have to move here. We have to go up 2 frets. That might take a minute to understand. It's fine. In a few moments you'll understand it more. Let's go back to the G scale. So tone, tone shape, another tone, tone shape, semitone, tone, semitone, tone. Now because we're jumping over this gap between the B string and the G string, we move up a fret, and then we look at the chart, and it looks like a tone, semitone, and one more tone, semitone. And then another tone, tone, like what the hell, we don't have 7 strings right on the guitar. We could, maybe you have a 7-string guitar, but in this case we don't. This pattern is an entire pattern that's meant to loop around and be in different positions. That final tone, tone, we obviously don't have here, but if we had another string, then it would be another tone, tone. We're going to get to understanding that a little bit later. Let's just try the same scale. We'll move up to the A, which is the 5th fret, and let's just go up and down slowly. 2, ready, go. That's where it ends, but we still have one more string, so we can go up there. Again, 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, ready, go. Come down. again. Again. Try the same thing on the 7th fret. So we're moving to a B. Here comes our B major scale. 1, 2, ready, go. Down. One more fret up. So to the 8th fret, we have our C, which becomes our C major scale. Here we go. One more. So what's this about the last tone shape? Well, let's imagine, for example, we're going to start our scale here, a C, which is the 5th string, 3rd fret. Let's just do one octave going up. Same shape, exactly the same. This starting here's our new starting spot. If I wanted to continue down from this, that tone would be the notes. Relating to the major scale, that is. So this pattern, really the idea of it, is to get used to all the notes in any particular key all over the net, or all over the string. So here's a G, okay? Let's try a G in a different spot. Well, we can do here, the exact same shape. We gotta go up 2 here. Why do you go up 2? 1, because we're shrinking, and 1, because of the compensation for the G string to B string gap. Okay, now coming down at the tone shape, and then semitone, tone, ending here. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means we could play the scale like this. I confuse you? Well, you could look at the chart and see where it says 2 on the first line. Let's see, look on the left of the chart. Go down to the 7th, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The sixth line there, and has a number 2. Well, that would be the starting point if you are wanting to start from the 2nd degree of the scale. Well, we're actually starting from the 1st degree because we're playing the G, but then we shifted our finger over, so now we're on the 2nd degree. So now we start from where it says 2, we continue up. If you memorize this pattern, this doesn't become that difficult, because we know there's 3 tone shapes in a row. Then we have to jump up 2. With a little bit of logical thinking, we can do quite a bit with this. Let's go from here. Dum, dum. Now we're on the 3rd degree. Look for where it says 3. Oh, it's a semitone shape. Right? And then continue up a tone, semitone, semitone, tone. Look, I just climbed all the way up here from here. Right? Right, see, it's not bad. You get from here to here in one scale. We don't have to start here. Let's play on the A for a minute. Let's just think about A major scale for a bit, with our first finger being the starting point with a root note. That's what we've been doing. Let's play the scale, also 3 notes per string, but instead of the first finger being on the root note, let's start from on the 3rd line down, in the middle there, there's an 8/1. That's 1 implies a root note again. So if we start from, we think we're going to put that as our starting spot now, which means now our middle finger is going to be on the A. Below it, which would be the 7th degree of the scale, would be the semitone down, and above it would be the tone. So here's a root note, and we're going to continue up from here. Tone, and now we go down a string, semitone. So now we're on line 4 there. To tone, down a string, tone, semitone. So just play the same scale. Different fingering, different position on the neck, but okay, well there's another 8/1. Let's put our pinky there. Okay, see the 3rd 8/1, which is the 5th line down on the rightmost side of that, to the right of the S. This is now going to become our starting finger and a starting spot. So we have our pinky here, then we continue on to the next string, which is just a 4-note span, so it's not a 5-note span. They're all 4 notes except for the tone shapes, which are all 5 notes. So we just go here. All right, you see that? Okay. And now we're on the 7th line, so we go up a tone. Sorry, we're on the 6th line. Go up and take a tone, then a semitone. Now we're on the 11th line as we go down to the tone shape. Then there's 3 tone shapes in a row. We have to slide up a fret. Then semitone, tone, got it? Slide down a fret. Then if I wanted to continue down, it would be the remainder of that. There we go. Again. One more time. So we're going to try all 3 positions to do the major scale from here. First one we learned, right from the very beginning of that chart. And we're going to go from the middle of the chart, on the putting your middle finger here. And then from the final position in the chart, well, not the final, but the 5th string, putting our pinky here. So here we have 3 ways to play the scale, but we can also do other things. We can play maybe just from the beginning, position 1 to our octave, and then restart the whole the exact same pattern again. Remember, slide up that extra fret there. So once you get this, you can start feeling different patterns. For example, let's start from the A. We're going to go to the middle, and And the middle two strings in this position has two semitone tone shapes in a row. Then you can start inventing little riffs that just go with that. Which you can move around. Well, if there's two semitone tone shapes in a row here, there's never going to be a time in the major scale where there are three semitones in a row, which means we know, without even having to think too much, that other notes in the scale would have to be here. So right behind it would be two semitone shapes. And then the more you get to understand, you can kind of climb around like this. So when you play around with it, get better at it, you'll start to understand all the positions and all kinds of different fingerings for any scale all over the neck. And take a moment to digest that and drink our tea. So I'm going to get infinitely more complicated now, but really just to show you that it's not actually that hard. I'm talking about modes. Maybe you've heard of modes, maybe you haven't. You see at the bottom of that chart where it says Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. I don't know if this is the right lesson to get into what modes are. They could be kind of annoying from some point of view because essentially they're just the major scale, the exact same notes that are in a major scale, but starting on a different note and ending on a different note, but all the notes are being the same. So we take G major, and you play in the key of G major. You do everything exactly the same as you would if you're playing in G major. The difference is you start on an A and end on the A, and that's called your Dorian mode, which is the second degree. So what I did was just looked at my chart there and started on the first line, but on the second note on number 2, and just went up the major scale and started on A, ended on A. You might think, well, what's the point of that? A lot of times, I'd even think, what's the point of that? But there is a truth. There's a lot of actually pretty important points. One, you can like pretend you're cool, and be one of those pompous musicians, and talk to people about saying, I just played the Dorian Mode, blah 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 blah. Okay, that's not an important point, but that is what a lot of people do. You keep in mind that theory is for naming things, and it's not really meant to direct what you play. Of course, the more you know about theory, the more you can use theoretical ideas to help create and direct things. But it's more important for naming. And you might think, well, if it's just a major scale, why even bother with all this stuff? But the truth is, it is important. If you listen to it, that sounds extremely different from the major scale. Even though it's the exact same notes in just a different starting spot, it sounds extremely different than this. And if you think about it, if I play a G major scale and I play every single note different and move everything up one fret, they kind of sound the same. But in fact, they sound almost exactly the same. So playing in G sharp and playing in G sharp, when I'm playing every single note differently, it's kind of the same sound. So I guess from that point of view, the mode where I'm playing all the same notes from a different starting spot, is a lot more different sonically than the same thing in different keys. The same thing in different keys is pretty similar. So, having said that, all of a sudden modes become a lot more important than the same key. A mode now is to describe, the name of a mode is to describe a particular sound. Dorian describes this, which is neither major or minor. It's something totally different. And it's a pretty interesting sound. And now all of a sudden, you think starting spots and ending spots have a big value in music, whether in your improvisations or in any melody you create or anything. The starting point and ending point is more significant than the key you're playing in. It's probably the most significant factor, aside from rhythm, which maybe could be equal depending on who you're arguing with. So, knowing the modes eventually becomes important. We don't have to play it like we just did. The chart is laid out in a convenient way. If you look at on the left side of the chart, where it says number 2 there on the 6th line down, that if you start there and you continue up, that is a Dorian mode. So if I'm playing G and I'm playing from the 6th line, tone, semitone shape, right? Tone, semitone, and 3 tones. There is your Dorian mode. Now you can learn the scale. Right? Which is movable. Oops. You might think, oh, that's not useful or practical. I mean, modes don't just describe the scales and what a scale sounds like if you play it on a different note and then on a different note, but it also describes songs and chord progressions and patterns. If I play the G minor chord, I might assume right away I'm in a minor key. But then so I might think, and if you know a bit about theory, you might think, okay, well, my G minor, if I'm playing a G minor chord right away, I might think, I'm in the key of B flat. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, but you might assume you're in B flat major, G minor. But what if the next chord I play is C major? That sounds okay. As a matter of fact, that song City of Stars, I believe, begins with those first 2 chords. You might hear that do-do-do-ba-ba-da-da-do-da-boom and think, okay, we're in G minor. But then all of a sudden, the next chord comes in, C major, which is not in the key of G minor, throws you off. You're like, well, wait a second. In the key of G minor, in the key of B flat major, the C major could not exist because technically it should be C minor, but it's not. The E flat that would be in G flat minor or B flat major is not in C major, it's an E natural. So this 2 chords side by side cannot possibly be in the key of G minor or B flat major. Therefore, you would instantly know it's in the key of F major or G Dorian. And then the 3rd chord in City of Stars is D minor. So, so why is that important? Well, it defines a sound. You know, the sound is not minor and is not major. It's something else, and it has a specific tone, a specific feeling that's kind of happy. But then all of a sudden, the melody changes to major. Da 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 da. Back to a minor. Da. So a minor feel, major feel, minor feel, which is unique to Dorian. So the name Dorian describes this feeling. And once you understand the feeling it describes, when you want to create a song with this feeling for whatever reason, just say you're being hired to write the movie soundtrack for whatever the name of that movie was, and you want that feeling, then you know, okay, well I better go to Dorian. There is, you know, you can search online for other songs in Dorian, and you can kind of understand that feeling a bit better. I think Moon Dance by Van Morrison is in Dorian, and who knows what else, but so now if I'm playing these songs or whatever jazz song, or who knows, whatever reason, I can improvise with my Dorian scale, and I'm assuming that's why you're here watching, because scales, you know, lead to improvisation on guitar. That's why we're here. And you know what, like, it's really, with this chart in mind, it's not a ton of extra work. We can pretty much know all the modes pretty quickly. So the first mode there is Ionian, which is exactly the same as a major scale, some big name they made up a long time ago. Okay, now I'm going to go to number 2, which is Dorian, on the 6th line down, and that's going to become my starting spot. Tone, semitone. Let's do 2 octaves. Okay, let's try the 3rd line down. It's called Phrygian. Phrygian, again, has a totally unique sound. So it's going to be on, if you look at our chart, it's the 4th line down at the beginning. It says number 3. So it's semitone, semitone, tone shape, tone, semitone, tones. Oops. It's a Phrygian. So, and you notice how that sounds, its own unique thing. So let's go to the 4th one. Lydian. So it's going to be the 2nd tone shape. Then so on line 2, tone shape, semitone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone, semitone, coming down. Same thing. There's our Lydian mode. Mixolydian. Mixolydian is the 5th degree. It's kind of a, you might, if you're reading like guitar player magazines, I don't even know if they exist anymore, but if you are, you'll probably see the Mixolydian word thrown around quite a bit. It's a more popular one because it's starting on the 5th degree of your scale, which is the dominant. So if I'm playing, for example, a G7 chord, a 7 chord all, what would work, one thing that could perfectly work with it is a Mixolydian scale, which is a 5th degree. And the interesting thing is also kind of easy to play because it's 3 tones in a row. So somebody's just jamming out on some blues or something. And then you can change it. You can move around and follow the sevens if you want. So here's C7. Back to our G7. D7. To a C7. To a G7. So there's a Mixolydian. And if you play it and you listen to the blues, you kind of hear how the Mixolydian sounds bluesy. Oops. Hello. I mean, it doesn't sound as bluesy as the blues scale, but we're not talking about the blues scale today. But there it is anyways. But it has a different type of bluesy feel, a very majory kind of bluesy feel, which is equally important, but from a different point of view. So, number 6, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th line down. That is our natural minor scale. Sounds like a minor scale because it is, and the other word for it is Aeolian. Meaning natural minor, meaning there is nothing different in it compared to its relative major key. So if the key is, for example, E major, no, let's say if the key is B flat major, the G Aeolian or G natural minor would have the exact same notes in it. So we got two tone semitone shapes, and this is another good one just to memorize in general. Again, tone, semitone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, tone. Well, there's our natural minor, which is 7th out of the 6th degree. Now, the last one is called Locrian. This one you just might never ever need to use, but for that same reason, lots of people decide to write songs in it anyways. So let's start on the 3rd line down where it says number 7, and it starts off with a semitone tone followed by another semitone tone. Here we go. It's kind of cool actually. Kind of sounds evil, which has some history behind it, but so let's keep on going up. Semitone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, semitone, tone, tone. And then that's a leading note to the major. So if I'm playing G Locrian, it's the leading note, so it would resolve to the G sharp. Locrian is always one semitone below the major. do apologize if all that was confusing. But it wasn't really meant to be easy. Music isn't. But if you do understand this is a lot to understand and play on the guitar in a short amount of time. With just this pattern that I listed out, I'm not sure if this pattern is unique or not. Nobody taught it to me. I kind of made it up myself. At least I thought I did. Though maybe somebody else has the same idea. I mean, it's not that far-fetched of an idea to have. Or possibly I heard it from somewhere else. But then it was a long time ago, so I don't really remember. So we're just going to recap a bit. One thing we can keep in mind on the guitar. So once you memorize all the notes here on the low string, so E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and then the double dots is your octave. Octave is an 8. Diatonic tone, note different, so 8 scale tones different. In the case of a guitar, it's at 12 frets. That's an octave. Another way to find an octave is move down 2 frets and 2 strings and 2 frets. So if this is a G, the octave is here. Another good thing to memorize. So if this is a G, here's the octave. This is a C, here's the octave. This is an F. Here's not the octave because we have to compensate for this distance. So now when we skip over the G to B string, it's 2 strings down and 3 frets up. And then same thing on the final string. So this is a B flat. This is also B flat. And this string and this string are the same. So this is a B flat, this is a B flat. But we can kind of find a lot of the same note in different spots of the guitar neck using just memorizing a few notes. Memorize this is a G, then we know this is a G, and we know this is a G, right? If we, let's see, A. You can ultimately memorize other things too. Here's a G. You know that because this string's open. There's a G, and the octave's here. That means 2 frets down and 2 strings up is also a G, which is here. G. A. 2 strings down, 2 frets up is another A. Same thing, but 3 frets up. Okay. A, right? And you can spend a bit of time looking at the fretboard, looking at the different notes, and then you can see where the octaves are. And then you can get a better picture of where all the notes are on the neck. So now we take our G scale again, our G major, back to the beginning. We play our 8 notes, and voila, we end up on an octave. One more thing that I'll tell you. See, this pattern here is keeping in mind 3 notes per string, and it's really just for guitar. It doesn't have good relevance to the rest of music. So what I'm about to say, don't confuse with this pattern there. But the general pattern of notes in any major scale using tones and semitones goes like this. It's tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. I just said 7 things, but a scale has 8 notes. So why is that? Well, because again, a tone and a semitone is not a note, it's the distance between 2 notes. So if we have 7 here, the first note is before the tone, second note is after the tone. So let's take a look. I'm just going to move, we're going to start on an F. We go up a tone, so F, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Gives us our major scale. There's another way to play the same thing we just played. You could play it. And then any of these starting spots is potentially a starting spot for a mode in this scale. So tone, well, here's the beginning for our Dorian. We look at 2. Okay, we look at the sixth thing down. Right? Tone. Here's our Phrygian, right? There's our our A Phrygian. A Phrygian is in the key of F, but it's still called A Phrygian. Because we're caring about the starting note. The 4th degree, so we got tone, tone, semitone. 4th degree is our Lydian, which we have. We could play the major scale like this if we wanted. Then start our Lydian. I've even confused myself. Oh. Tone, tone, semitone. That's right. Not enough sleep. Okay, we're going to go to the Mixolydian. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alien. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And so on. So that should be a lot of information for you. Hope it helps. I'll probably think about how to say this a bit more clearly and make it more later. I'm going to be streaming on Twitch TV daily. I'm going to be teaching between guitar, vocal, piano, Pro Tools production, and whatever else you guys want to learn. So please look for us on Twitch TV. Look Awesome Music Studio, all one word. Thank you very much.